Have you ever had a friend or family member do something that's really cool and you decide to try to live vicariously through their experience? Well, that is exactly what we are doing here today on the Resistance broadcast, everybody. Welcome back. I am John Hoey. We have a special guest joining us today, a impromptu, quick change of plans, and we're just kind of putting this together now because we have some cool things to talk about, and if you saw the title of the episode, you understand why. So we'll just get right into it right now. First by saying hi to James and Lacey. Guys, how are you? Welcome back. Let's podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited. Lacey, are you ready for this?
Yeah, my favorite Kylo Ren cosplayer is on today, so I don't know about everybody else, but I'm super excited.
Nice.
That's a giveaway hint right there. And yes, so our favorite Kylo Ren cosplayer is joining us today from ABC News. He has a lot to talk about with us about a certain theme park that's going to be opening this year in Disney World. It is our friend Clayton Sandell. Clayton, welcome back. How you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's a little theme park. Disney, you may have heard of them.
Theme park.
Galaxy's Edge thing. Yeah.
I have a Fitbit on, and my BPM is way up right now.
Just shot right up, huh?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
With good reason.
Like the Disney Magic Band? Does your Fitbit have the little?
No, but I do have. It's like the JJ photo as the background.
There you go. Very nice.
Yeah. Didn't James make those?
Yeah, I got it on my phone.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Sent it out for everybody.
Enough
Got
about my
lots of likes
watch.
and retweets.
Let's talk
Yeah.
team porn thing.
Yeah, so we are here and we kind of changed pace on things here because Clayton reached out because he got to check out Galaxy's Edge, or if you want to just say he went to the planet Batu, if that's how you pronounce it, to check things out.
And back, yes.
Batu and back. So let's just kick right into it right now with all the goodness here. Clayton, why don't you dive in with your experience going to Galaxy's Edge?
It's amazing. It's amazing. So I'll kind of back up a little bit. This started last week. There was a few days. Several of us were invited, and you'll see some of those other articles that are online now that the embargo has lifted. We went to Lucasfilm headquarters. We met with some of the creators of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and the way they had structured it is, so Scott Trowbridge, who's sort of the creative executive in charge, was there kind of leading the way. But we also heard from people like Pablo Hidalgo and Matt Martin from the Story Group and other people from Disney Imagineering, just to basically give us a background of what the planet is about, some of the storytelling elements, how they came together, how they work together. And that was day one. And then we went down to Glendale, beautiful, sunny Glendale, California, the next day to the headquarters of Imagineering and sort of heard things from the Imagineering side. So the technology, how this app is going to work in the park, the philosophy, the interactivity, the technology goes into the rides. And then day three, we went down and actually learned a lot about the foods that they're going to be doing, because it's all part of the story. Like you're not going to go to Galaxy's Edge and buy a hot dog or a hamburger. It's all foods we can talk about that are in universe, so to speak. And so the culinary staff has spent hundreds of hours coming up with stories and working with the story group to come up with foods that fit this world. So then we got our hard hats on, our beautiful neon orange safety vests, hard hats. They loaded us in a bus. We drove around to the backstage area of Disneyland and had basically about an hour and a half tour around this 14-acre land. God. So it's just to give you a picture of what it looks like backstage right now. It is incredibly busy. There's a lot that they still have to do. So it's a really busy construction site. There's people running around everywhere. There's trucks backing up. There's cranes. There's people on lifts, all of this stuff. But the basic shape of everything, as I'm sure you've seen from the aerials that people have been taking, is all in place. And it totally feels like Star Wars. Some of the buildings are painted. They've got markings and Arabic writing and all of this stuff. And you just feel like you're a 4-inch tall action figure. You know how you used to play and run the action figures around and you kind of wondered what their view was like. That is what this is like. It's how it feels. I mean, everything looks and feels so Star Wars. And I got to tell you, the moment that really got to me the first time, we were kind of walking up. There's a walkway that kind of curves up and leads up. And as you've heard them talk a little bit, the Imagineers have talked a little bit about the sort of cinematic reveals that they've built into this place. So when you walk into the entrances, the tunnels start off wide and they kind of compress down intentionally so that then when they open back up, as you walk through it, it opens back up and reveals this land in front of you. So there's a lot of kind of cinematic planning that went into this. And so as you're walking up one section of the park, the area where you are supposed to first see the Millennium Falcon, we're coming up the walkway around the curve. You sort of come under this arch. So the arch, goes over you and it reveals the Falcon right in front of you. And basically 3 grown men just started openly weeping. I mean, it's that incredible. It is so big. And I learned this later, the angle that they have put the Falcon at in front of you for that first reveal is meant to match the first time you see it in Docking Bay 94.
Oh,
right. So it's sitting right there. It's exactly how you see it. And it's huge and it's big and it's detailed. And one of the Imagineers who was there said, over the years, the Falcon in its different model form, set form, it's changed, right? The details have changed and they're not always consistent. And he said that this Falcon, Disney and Lucasfilm now consider this Falcon to be the standard bearer. Like all of the details that are on this particular ship are how, I guess, is the new canon Millennium Falcon. It's how. It's how they're sweet. Yeah, so it's really pretty cool. And there was at one point, there was a guy on one of those lifts that was going up to the top of the Falcon, and you can't help all of these Star Wars lines just sort of start flooding back to you. So he gets up there, and I wanted to shout up to him in my best Han Solo voice. No, that one goes there. That one goes there. It's like you want to just, you just can't help but fall into it. So for me, that moment, that Falcon reveal was the moment that, and there were a lot of Star Wars feels that went on during this day, but that one was pretty key.
It's funny you say that. Sorry, go ahead, James.
I recently went to Disney World and we went to Animal Kingdom, and I noticed the way that they designed Animal Kingdom, because as you're walking towards the Tree of Life, you have to go around a corner, and as you go around that corner, it's like the trees move out of your way and it's like boom, it's like right there. Yep. And so I remember I went back, pulled out my camera and filmed my walk up to the Tree of Life. And I can't imagine how many people are going to be filming this walk through to the Millennium Falcon, because it sounds like they've planned it out and they've done the research at other parks. And this time they really made it perfect.
Yep. They call it the hero
Avatar.
Reveal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did it with Avatar, and then they also do it a lot with the new Harry Potter parks. You walk through and it's this big reveal. But it's funny you say that, Clayton, because I had a friend that works at Disney that called me today, and he told me he walked through Galaxy's Edge, and the first thing he said is, I wept openly in front of all these people I didn't know, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
So you are not alone.
I wrote about it. It's funny. So yeah, it's they've got it. They definitely know what's going to get you.
So let's do the full hour on the Falcon, and then we could.
It'll be a 6-part episode.
I wanted to ask you, when they say this is the Falcon now, did they date it to this is just after the Force Awakens Falcon? Because I do see they have the rectangular dish still on it, right?
They do have the rectangular dish on it. Yep. They didn't specify, but I just assumed the current state of the Falcon in the current timeline, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
If I know anything about canon, I believe that the park itself is pre The Force Awakens. Because I believe that the First Order has just made their move into that area. But that could be
except that Finn is part of all of this.
okay. So then it might be after Last Jedi, but before Episode 9, because that all kind of takes place really quick, and First Order still could be on the move.
Right.
Spreading out throughout the galaxy. I
think that's right. They haven't, at least not that I've heard, set a specific time other than to say it's sort of in the current movie period of this current trilogy. Okay. But are we talking are we doing spoilers?
For the movies?
I mean, this whole talk is spoilers for people that don't want to know about the park.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about Rise of the Resistance then, which is the sort of escape ride, which is very complex, and we can talk about how crazy that is. But I have been told that Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac all appear in that ride at key moments on monitors. So it's like you're in the command center and Rey pops up and gives you instructions to do something. So
is it like Guardians, where the Guardians show up?
That's a good question, because I haven't been on the new Guardians. So, but probably,
they show up and they're just like, "Hey guys, ready to get started?" And then
you said Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaac, and John Boyega.
Yep, all three of them. They the Imagineers went to the set of both The Last Jedi and Episode 9 to record or to film with them at separate times. So they all actually appear in different key moments of Rise of the Resistance.
Imagine being in a
Adam
ride.
Driver,
not
right?
Adam Driver. What?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Imagine being in a ride. Like, that's your legacy on a Disney ride. That's so cool.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
So before you kind of delve into as much as you can about that ride, because you didn't get to ride it yet. Is that accurate? It's not done?
Right. They didn't let us ride anything. I got the sense that the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is basically up and running, and they've been testing it. Because actually the day we were in there in the cockpit, they had like human weights that were in there. So they're testing it, and the screen was up. But the entire like queue area was just filled with ladders and toolboxes and stuff, and they're installing things. So I get the sense that Falcon is up and running, or at least being tested regularly. Rise is not. Rise has a lot of work that still has to be done in it, but
okay.
That was, I think, my second most just chill-inducing moment, because as you, one of the points, and I won't give everything away about the plot, but one of the moments you come off of this Resistance transport into, and you've seen the artist renderings, I think, of the Hangar Bay. And this Hangar Bay is not an illusion. It's not a painting. It is the biggest room I have ever seen devoted to an attraction. It is like you're standing in the hangar from Force Awakens, and it's right in front of you. And you keep in mind, I saw it with all the lights on. There's no sound. The screen, there's like 100-foot wide screen, which is the window where the ships come in and out. Which was not activated. It'll be a projection eventually, but we saw it with everything off, and it still blew us away. It's enormous. It's enormous, and there are full-sized First Order TIE fighters on the wall, just like there were in Force Awakens. So I hope that when you ride the ride, that you get at least a little bit of time in this space, because if they're shuttling you through, I would just want to stand there and look at it for 10 minutes. It's really,
hop out of the car. You guys can go on. I'm gonna
just But it's really impressive how they pull that illusion off from going ground level on Batuu up to the Star Destroyer, and then kind of through the Star Destroyer is
supposedly you like get on a transport ship and it like spins you around, correct?
Maybe.
Is that the idea?
Okay. Now, another rumor I heard that I want to try to get cleared up, because a lot of people are very confused about this. Is it? Someone said the ride is going to be a half hour long.
That 28-minute rumor that went around, to half an hour. It Scott Trowbridge himself says it is not 28 minutes, but they're being very cagey about how long it is. and it was hard.
27 minutes.
Yeah,
No.
27 minutes, right.
It is not 28.
I don't think it's that long, and I think the only reason is that you just couldn't move people through it at a fast enough rate if it was 28 minutes long. Because there's only two. You can load people back and forth. It's not like the Falcon ride, which is however many different cockpits they have. So yeah, they wouldn't tell us whether how long Rise was exactly. They wouldn't tell us how long the Falcon ride is, although somebody said it's similar to other rides like this, which that immediately tells me Star Tours kind of length.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe an Avatar where you have to like load in and.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they're being very cagey about exactly how long everything lasts, but he did clarify that no, it is not 28 minutes.
Okay.
I wish.
I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad. 'Cause
That
I'll take
rumor
it.
is kind of ridiculous, though, because if
Yeah.
you think about Disney as a park, there's no way they can get that many people through that ride if it's
Right.
half an hour long. Like, come
Right.
on,
So-
guys, use basic logic.
And it's hard to tell whether that number, includes like time in the queue and things like that,
Right.
because they are
Right.
building things into the queue that you can kind of do and
Right.
interact with. So I don't know where that number.
That
comes
was
from.
my concept on it. I said, okay, I correct me if I'm wrong here. There's maybe supposed to be something kind of at the end, like after you get off the ride, there's some interactive things there. I don't know if you know about that, but I thought, maybe that adds to it. Like once you're on the ride, it's a 4-minute ride or whatever. But then when you're out, we expect people to spend about 24 minutes in this area, or something
Okay.
along those lines, which equals about a 28-minute experience. And maybe
right,
that's what got tossed
right.
around or whatever. But
Sure, makes sense. Yeah. I tell you, one of the things that tells me how devoted they are to this idea that you're in universe is that the exits to the rides don't have gift shops.
Oh.
You just
So-
you just exit the ride and you're back on the streets of Black Spire.
Wow, so the exact opposite of Star Tours, where it's like, here's
Exact
our
opposite.
store.
Yeah. I feel like it takes me a half an hour to get out of Star Tours every time I ride it.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
yeah,
All right, so that part is interesting because I always wondered if they were going to sprinkle any kind of here's our marketing, Disney marketing, and be like pump you out of the experience. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question, which I think a lot of people have asked. I know there's going to be characters and cast people walking around. We saw the costumes were revealed, I guess, of
Right.
the cast members. Are there going to be people as aliens, like a Greedo, like Rhodians walking around too? Or how? Any word on that sort of thing?
Some of that stuff they're keeping pretty close to the vest. They're just now starting to train their leads, so they're not quite down to the line level, cast member level, is my understanding. So they're just kind of getting into that. I would expect you would see some of that. Yeah, I think you might see some
Okay.
aliens. It didn't come up during this 3 days, but I would expect you would see something like that because there's a lot of aliens out there.
Yeah, right. Very cool.
Also, some of the stories have been written around how there are certain aliens,
Right.
specific aliens at this park, like in the comics and some of the books, like this person will be here. So there's some of that too.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, now there is a cantina, correct?
There is a cantina, yeah, Uga's Cantina.
Okay.
And it's actually it's a rather small, intimate space. It's smaller than I expected it to be, but when you walk into it, you come in through a walkway that's kind of very similar to the ones we've seen before in Star Wars. Probably 3 or 4 people wide could fit in the doorway as you walk in, and you kind of angle in, and it's small. There's only one way. There's only one entrance in and out of the place. I counted 8 alcoves around the bar, and it's basically set up in that same horseshoe configuration that we've seen before. Maybe a little more circular than that. But the alcoves kind of go all the way around. One of the alcoves, so there's 8 that seem to be like there's going to be seating, and then one of them is the one where the Rex DJ droid is going to be.
Oh, right. Okay.
So he's
from Star
he's
Tours.
there. Yeah, from Star Tours. And, they don't have, they were just starting to put in some of the major props and pipes and things behind the bar. It looks like they're going to have some tables and some sort of counter things set up. No seating, I understand, but like stand-up tables. None of that was in yet. So it was a little hard to get a sense of just how many people are going to be able to fit in there. And they're not quite talking about how they're going to move people in and out of there or encourage people to move in and out of there, because if it were me, I'd come in and just sit all day.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Are they worried about traffic and the amount of people going through this park? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
being on any Disney park on a super busy day, I mean, look at Avatar alone. Like, that wait time can be sometimes like 2 to 3 hours
Brutal.
any given time. So
Yeah. It's
are they concerned? Like,
It
do
was
they have
5 when I was there.
Yeah. Do
The-
they have
yeah.
plans that they're trying to?
They are concerned. They say they have plans. Right now, they're not telling us what those plans are. But yeah, it comes up. The question comes up a lot. And Scott Trowbridge got a lot of questions from all of us about this. And he says, look, we understand it's going to be busy, and we don't want elbow to elbow crowds to ruin this Star Wars experience that we have worked so hard to create. We don't want that. He goes, we don't want you to endure the park. We want you to enjoy it with your friends, with your family, all of that. So, but right now they're kind of deferring to the operations side of Disney. So those plans, and nothing specific was talked about or brought up. We all were sort of talking about stuff, and I'm sure you guys have been too, about whether they do a timed entry or some sort of special admission fee or something. Whatever the ideas are, they're not talking about them right now, but it is definitely high on their level of concern. Yeah.
What about the scope of the park? You probably had some kind of preconception going in your mind that, as much as you probably tried to avoid that. Did the Star Wars area itself, the whole Batu area, was it bigger than you thought it would be, or smaller than you thought it would be?
Once you got there and you're actually walking the streets, it seemed smaller than I thought, because the only thing I had really studied is that big model that they had. And that thing looks like it goes on forever. And I'm sure it is a faithful representation of what they built. But to me, it just looked a lot bigger in that model.
Okay.
But it's big, and there's a lot of different areas to go to and explore. And they've done a pretty good job. One of the Imagineers told us, we didn't want to create something that was too big, because Disneyland, the scale of it is a fairly intimate space. And so they kind of wanted to match that. They didn't want it to seem too out of place. So I think that's one of the reasons why, for example, the cantina is not this giant thing that holds 300 people. It's a fairly small, maybe 100 people at a time kind of thing. So you do have these sort of broad walkways that kind of come up and around, but then you also have these like smaller spaces, these smaller courtyards and kind of medium-sized courtyards. So it doesn't feel overwhelming at any given time. Okay. So there's a lot of different areas, and then the Black Spire part of the city kind of opens up, and then the Resistance side is kind of set in kind of a foresty, more open area. So you can kind of,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. You kind of come down a winding path, an X-wing and an A-wing, and then a big turret, which is sort of the entrance into Rise of the Resistance ride. So it's much more open, much more green, all of that.
So the park itself is kind of split into two sides?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like you're seeing what the First Order has control over, and then the Resistance kind of in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Geographically, it's kind of like at one end of it, sort of on the eastern end toward, say where Small World is. That's the First Order side of it. That's where the TIE Fighter is parked, and it's an awesome TIE Fighter. It's a brand new TIE Fighter that nobody's ever seen before, and they hinted that you're going to see this TIE Fighter probably in a new movie. I'm guessing episode 9.
Right.
Okay.
But it's a really cool design. It almost combines, if you can imagine, like Kylo's shuttle kind of shrunken down into a TIE fighter look.
Okay.
Kind of looks like that. And we were talking about merchandising. The First Order will apparently have a little market stall set up next to this TIE fighter. And the idea is if you're a First Order supporter, then you can show up and buy stuff from they're calling it the 709th Legion, the 709th. So you can buy your Imperial, your Stormtrooper helmet or your First Order patch or hat or whatever it is. So they're going to be operating a little propaganda stand there.
Join the Empire and Solo.
Yeah,
sort
join
of
the
thing.
Empire sort of thing. Exactly. A recruiting station, I guess. And then over in the Resistance area, there's a similar kind of thing where you can buy Resistance badges and hats and that sort of stuff if you so choose. So you gotta pick your side, I guess.
Are they gonna?
So what side would you pick now that you've been in the park?
Oh, Imperial. Oh, yeah. First Order for sure.
Yeah.
Are they gonna? Split
I have
the
a question
music up?
for you, real quick, about the. Oh shoot! I lost it now. All of a sudden, me and John are talking at the same time. I forget. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna
Totally
say,
slipped my mind.
did they say anything about the music in the park? Like if you're in the Resistance area, you're gonna hear Rey's theme or something like that. I know they have a new soundtrack for the park, but is there going to be Imperial-esque music on the Imperial side and vice versa?
One of the things that they're trying to do is to have all the music in universe too. So they've created a whole bunch of music for the Cantina that is supposed to be
John Williams.
What did they call it in? I was trying to remember the name in. I was trying to remember my college film class. Diegetic. So the music's supposed to be diegetic, coming from a source within the world. But they do have moments, and they didn't specify where. I guess they didn't want to spoil it, but there will be moments probably coming out of the rides or going into the rides where you will hear John Williams music. But for the most part, it's going to be just kind of atmospheric stuff. So whatever that shopkeeper is playing or whatever, So
Okay. So you're not going to hear like dun, 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 dun,
I don't think so. I think
like 2 minutes
you'll hear
wrote
it.
the
theme.
Yeah, I think you'll hear it, but maybe coming in or leaving the area through the tunnels. But for the most part, they kind of want to maintain that Star Wars, that Batuu natural in
That's
world.
good. I like that.
feel. Yeah. It's cool.
I remember what I was going to say now, and it's that there are going to be people that I know, that go into this park and see these TIE fighters and kind of get a glimpse at this stuff before going into Episode 9. They're going to go into Episode 9 and be like, that's the TIE fighter.
That's the TIE fighter. Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
That's it. I've already seen it in person, and this is the world premiere of this TIE fighter pretty much,
Yeah.
but I've already seen it
Yeah, that's
up
cool.
close. That's so cool.
Yeah. There's fun stuff like that for sure. Yeah.
Do they have character meet and greets?
Yeah, I was going to.
Because I love meeting Kylo Ren. So.
That didn't come up, and I don't think anybody asked about it. Because again, I think you're supposed to I think what'll happen
Experience
is they'll
it.
just kind of happen naturally, right? So as you walk through, there'll be droids and there'll be inhabitants and there'll be people, and I'm sure that you can take a selfie along the way. Oh, speaking of taking selfies, one of the things I want to tell you about the Millennium Falcon ride is that as you get up into almost getting into the cockpit, one of the coolest things about this is in the crew hold, where the Jadaric table is, where the engineering station is, and the cots, the bunks and all that. That room is kind of a holding room before you go in, and they encourage you to walk around and flip every switch and sit at the table and take your selfies. And so they'll have they'll have like multiple crews waiting to go into the cockpit, but while you wait, so presumably you'll have maybe 5-10 minutes to kind of hang out in there. You get to wander that space, and it's
God.
it's everything you imagine it to be. It's totally cool.
Wait a minute.
Do you happen to know, like, behind the curtain a little bit, are there more than one of these rooms? So they like cue people into this.
There's two.
version?
Yeah, there's two crew holds. Yep. There's one to the left and one to the right, and then multiple more cockpits. But yeah, so there's two of those crew rooms, and they're a little cagey on how many people will be in that room, but it feels like a large enough space that if you have a few minutes in there, I think people will sort of naturally, you got here first, you get your pictures, and then when you go in, we'll get our stuff. I think people will be able to work it out. But yeah, that was
being decent, polite human beings.
Cool. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, that was one of the coolest things for me. It's like, oh, we get to hang out at the Jarek table. Cool. And I did ask him. I said, so will there be some sort of hologram thing on here? And he goes, well, we're trying to work that out. So I don't know that they quite figured it out, but it looks pretty cool. And you can see if you click in my story, you'll see some of the photos of the interior. I mean, you cannot tell the difference between the ride and the actual sets. It's amazing.
So John is never leaving. See you later, John.
No, I will stay there forever.
This is the problem, and it's like the remember Diego Luna not long ago was talking about how he needed to feel the texture of Jabba. That's how I felt in the hallways. I just the pads on the wall. Like I just wanted to touch all of the pads on the wall and touch every surface and flip every switch. And
so that's what I want to ask you.
Yeah,
was there any? Because there's some rides like Tower of Terror that look very like tactile, where there's all these books and stuff, but there's velvet ropes and you can't go past certain areas.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that there where you're just like, you can't go there?
No, I mean
there's a bar in front of you.
In the ride itself there. No, in the ride itself, there's none of that. You can sit on the bench. You can. I don't know if you're going to be able to climb in the bunk. Maybe. I mean, I didn't see anything that was blocking your way there. But you have to walk right past the engineering station with the chair. So all of that stuff is there, and there's nothing. I mean, the corridor is not that long as you head to the cockpit, or not that wide as you head to the cockpit, as you know. So you can just kind of reach out your arm and touch the wall as you walk in. Now, on the outside where the Falcon is, they will have barriers around that, so you can't walk right up to it and touch it. You can't get close enough to touch it, but you're right there. I mean, it feels like you're right on top of it because it's so big and it's so tall, and you're probably within 5 or 10 feet of it. And then the same way with like the X-Wing down in the Resistance area and the TIE Fighter, and there's kind of natural like boxes and things that they stack up to kind of form a natural, non-obvious kind of fence to keep you away.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
But it's like a good video game that they just instead of just an invisible wall, they just put like a bunch of boxes that you for some reason can't climb over.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Same idea.
So you can't get up the ramp on the Falcon, but it's open, but you can't go up the ramp.
Correct. Yeah. There's no interior in that Falcon. It's just structural stuff inside.
Okay, I'll pretend you didn't say that.
Sure. You can go inside. It's about to fly away. Yeah. I mean, that's I actually wrote that in my story. I said it looks so good that you expect any second it's going to blast off with stormtroopers chasing it.
Man,
at any second. So.
God,
it's pretty impressive.
I'm gonna ask another question here because you did mention earlier about you're not really sure about specific aliens or anything, but I hear that Hondo Ohnaka is supposed to be a big part of this park.
Yeah,
is he a character that shows up in any specific way that you saw?
In a big way, yeah. So Hondo shows up in the the backstory to the Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run is that you are working for Hondo on some smuggling mission. And so it's his company, it's his shipping company that you walk into. It's his maintenance room that you walk into. And then when you come to the first holding area, there up above you is a big window and a fully audio animatronic Hondo.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's awesome. He's the latest model of Disney Imagineering. He's a model A1000, they called him. He's all electric. He moves, up above. He's up above. You can't see his feet. So he's on a moving platform. So it looked like he's walking around and he pushes buttons and he talks to his droid and he talks to the guests. and kind of explains the whole mission. And the day that we were there, they were actually up there programming his movements, so his audio wasn't playing, but it goes on a loop of 3 or 4 minutes or whatever it is. So he does his whole spiel. So yeah, he's there, and then he may be, this is what I'm not clear on, he may be at the end as well, demanding credits for damaging the Falcon, or
that makes sense.
So there may be another one, but he looks great. Jim Cummings does the voice.
Yeah.
And we actually saw the Hondo that's going to Florida is still in a Imagineering warehouse in Glendale. So we got to actually get up really close to him and kind of see how they were programming him. And he was right next to the Doc Ondar that's going to Florida, which is also incredible. He looks great. There's they showed us.
So there's an animatronic Doc Ondar too.
Yes. So just around the corner from where the Falcon ride gets out, you walk into Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities, and you walk into it, and it's a 2-story circular kind of room, and the second story is just for show. You don't go up there, but it looks like there's a balcony that runs around it, and there's all these alcoves around Doc Ondar's shop that they were just starting to fill with different props. And I didn't know what these were called, but the thing that Lando has in his disguise in Return of the Jedi, I looked it up. Yeah. It's a vibro axe. Had you heard this term?
I did not know that term. No.
I didn't know this term. Vibro axes. So they had all these vibro axes on the wall that they were starting to put in, and apparently there's going to be a lot of different props in there that you'll recognize from various things. And so this is sort of a shop where you can go in and look at stuff, but you can also buy things. So every shop is sort of supposed to be this organic shopping experience. You just kind of wander in to look at something cool, and then there's other stuff. So in Doc's shop, they'll have things like holocrons that light up and do things. And if you put a kyber crystal in it, it does one thing. And if you change kyber crystals, it says something different. And lightsabers, and they had all sorts of stuff, but of kind of a collector level antiquity kind of style to everything. I did a separate story, if you want to click on it, that's all about the shopping and the toys and stuff. And we have a ton of pictures of what these things are going to look like.
Oh, very cool.
So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's such a great time to be a little kid.
Yeah.
Doc Ondar is Itherian. He's like the hammerhead looking ones, from back in the cantina, is like one of the first times he pops up. But that's just cool to know that there's going to be like a real life version of that.
Yes.
You can see right over there,
Yep. And he's programmed with a whole bunch of, I forget how many hours they said he's programmed with different responses and things. And so there'll be a cast member in there who's sort of designated to interact with him. So the idea is that you're supposed to try and haggle with him on price. And so there'll be sort of these different programmed things, and he's animatronic, and his eyes move and his mouth moves, and he makes great sounds, and he moves around to do things. And so he kind of sits in one corner of the shop over there as things are going on. So, and that's kind of
reminds me
a lot of
the Finding Nemo thing in Epcot. Okay. So the Finding Nemo, they have like a turtle talk thing where you go in and Crash comes in and he talks to you, and it looks like it's a movie with Crash, but it's actually a guy behind the screen with a remote controller.
They actually do it with Monsters Inc. as well.
Yeah.
They have a monster that does like a comedy show.
Yeah.
I gotta
say, so cool and clever. It's very unreal. I can't believe that they managed to pull that off.
It's becoming harder and harder for people to try to say that Disney doesn't care about Star Wars.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God. I don't even know what else to ask right now. I think one of the most interesting things that you said has to do with you picturing yourself as a 3.75-inch action figure walking through a playset.
Oh, for sure. For sure. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if at some point they come out with a Black Spire Outpost playset. That would be the most awesome thing ever, because you could just go and recreate. But that's kind of one thing we haven't talked about is the food. And
that's what I was going to say.
What's crazy about all of that is how much time and effort they've put into the stories behind the food. So one of the things they're doing, they've and it's all like quick service restaurants. So there's kind of like a Star Wars version of a food court, essentially, which looks amazing. It's got these different areas where you can go buy different things, and they've created all these dishes. And one of them that you can get there is they call it Kadu ribs. So you know the thing from the Phantom Menace that Jar Jar rides around and then he rides into battle.
Oh yes,
that's a Kadu, right? I kind of vaguely had an idea what it was, but I had to look it up. So they've created sweet and spicy Kadu ribs, and Disney says this is not a cut of ribs that is done anywhere in the food industry. They're having this cut done just for them so that it looks a little bit different and fits whatever their idea of Kadu anatomy is. And so that's one example of what they're doing. They have mahi becomes this kind of fish that's native to Dothamir or something like that. That is a fish
I saw you
dish.
had like a liquid that was like blueberries, raspberries, and Pop Rocks.
Yes.
It was like a edible liquid.
Yeah. It's a dessert. It's like the grossest looking thing ever. I don't know. I would order it again, but it's it's kind of cool. It's creative. I mean, all of it's creative, and then they have these amazing desserts. They have vegan dishes. But it's neat because everything has a backstory, and they've spent hours and hours. I mean, it's like they've planned a movie. They've spent many hours planning and plotting all this stuff out.
Go ahead, John.
That is incredible.
Yeah, I have a question. So I guess my friend's wife works around Disney parks, whatever, and they said that there are charging stations rumored to be everywhere, and they're curious if you heard about that and what the purpose of that may be.
I have not. You mean in Black Spire itself? Charging
In the
station?
park, yeah. There's charging stations everywhere that seems to be a part of the experience. I don't know if that's like a droid thing or if that's just like a hidden way for people to charge their mobile devices or I don't know what, but I don't know if you heard anything like that.
No, I didn't. And if they were there, they were either disguised or I just didn't see them.
Or it's like a last thing that they're doing, like the electric
Maybe.
stuff or whatever. Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's all sorts of Easter eggs. I have another of my 6 articles. It has to do with Easter eggs, and so there's like there's an X-34 speeder that full size that's parked over there in one area.
Can you get in
all
it?
sorts of cool stuff. No, that's one of the ones where they have one of their clever little fences that doesn't let you.
That's always your question.
Yeah.
Can you go in it?
Can you go in it? Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
at one point, our group was walking past the Falcon, and one of my reporter colleagues was like, "Can I touch the Falcon?" And the guy was like, "No." Do not-
It surprises me. You know how they do like photo ops where you could like you get in a line and then you can meet like Snow White and then it's just like a minute or whatever and then
Right.
you walk along. It almost seems like they could have that particular prop be like a line to get a photo in. Like people just line up all day and they just cycle them through. You know, get your photo inside the speeder and then move on. But
yeah. That'd be awesome.
Is there a
what else?
loft cat?
More Easter eggs. I want to know them all.
Isn't there a loft cat?
There is.
Yeah,
there is
right.
a loth cat. Yeah. So there's a couple of. That's not my favorite creature Easter egg though. There is a loth cat in the marketplace. There's a creature stall where you can buy. Where you can buy toys and things. And in there's a whole bunch of cages hanging from the ceiling and on the walls. And in that store is a full-on animatronic loth cat that kind of lays there and his tail flicks and looks at you and stuff.
Man.
So there is a loth cat. So that's cool because they're drawing from animation. They're drawing they're drawing from everywhere. And one of Doug Chang said there are literally hundreds of Easter eggs, and you're going to spend hours and hours and hours trying to find them all, whether it's
Alex Damon, eat your heart out.
Yeah, there's all sorts of there's also stuff. There's new vehicles you've never seen before. Just flipping through my spoiler article here. Okay, so my favorite one is there's an area just off the marketplace that's a drinking fountain area, and it's designed to look like the water that you're drinking is like this nasty brown bubbling clear tanks that are above the drinking fountain. And so as you're getting your drink, I don't know if it triggers or does automatically or what, but out of that water pops a Dianoga and looks around and then goes back down.
That is so cool.
And there's there's cool stuff like that kind of placed around, which is really fun. And of course, we all were bugging people. We were asking we were asking like Pablo Hidalgo and Matt Martin what their favorite Easter eggs were, and they wouldn't really say. Although somebody else said, so Matt said that he has a favorite Easter egg. There's a book character that's one of his favorite characters, and I would maybe have to go back and maybe decipher this through his Twitter feed, but he says there's a book character that's one of his favorites, and when he suggested putting that in as like the name on a sign, that nobody objected, and he was very excited when nobody objected to this.
He
to
loves
this particular Easter egg.
Dr. What's her name?
Afra?
Dr.
Yeah.
Afra?
Oh, okay. So,
I mean, I don't know if that's true, but he talks about her all the time.
Okay. So there's one, and then in the cantina, Rex from the original Star Tours, I found out is once again voiced by Paul Rubens, which is cool.
Pee-wee.
Pee-wee's back. Yep.
So did he recorded new stuff for it?
Yep. It's all new.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Who would say no if someone was like, hey, do you want to be in this theme park?
Yes,
No.
exactly.
Not at all.
Yeah. Pablo wouldn't talk about what his favorite Easter egg was, but one of the Imagineering people said that there is a hidden Hidalgo somewhere in Black Spire. So
what does that mean?
I don't know what that means. If it's a likeness of him or
Written in
Arabish or something,
Yeah.
but there is a hidden Hidalgo somewhere in that area. So
Now, you said there's an app that you can do stuff with in the lines to help kind of kill the time and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So this app is
Help kill the time.
when you're
but that's
I understand.
that's one of the reasons. And in fact, what was the quote? I used it. It was something like they wanted to turn. They basically want you to use this app to kill time in the rides. They want to leverage the technology that everybody's bringing into the park anyway. So they've created. It's through, and I've never used it. I guess it's been out since June. This Disney Play Parks. Disney Parks
it's so
Play
fun.
app.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so fun. You do trivia with other people in line.
Right.
And you can unlock certain things in certain rides. It's kind of like an interactive game.
Yeah. So
it syncs with Apple Music to
cool.
play like that stuff. Yeah.
So it's based on that, and when you walk into Black Spire Outpost, it's supposed to kind of flip and become your own data pad, essentially. And there's different things on it that you can do. You can use it to translate Arabish. You can go in there and kind of pick your.
Don't need it.
You can, there you go. Yeah. I do. But you can go in there, and it's set up to. You can scan like shipping labels on that are there in the queue, and it'll give you a story or it'll give you something trivia, whatever. But then you can take a job for the First Order, or they call it a job for the Resistance, where you go and you try and find a certain ship, and you scan the barcode or whatever it is on the ship and download schematics and earn credits and like different things like that. So it's designed to get you to do other things either in line or walking around. One of the things you can do,
cool.
They've got it set up. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work, but if you pick the First Order, then you're sort of on that team, and then there's a Resistance team, and there's some game that they've come up with where you're supposed to be able to hack into the door panels and disable surveillance devices, and whichever team has more of them, wins the game or whatever. I don't know if it's going to be timed or what you get for it, but it's all designed to make it to take advantage of every piece and part of this place. So yeah,
that actually reminds me of one other thing too, is the you do something in the park, and then like the cast members are aware of the things that you do in the park. Did they talk much about that?
The only example they've talked about, and I get the feeling this is sort of a work in progress, because the one that we've heard about, right, is the one where once you damage the Millennium Falcon, people are going to know that you damaged the Millennium Falcon. So that is going to work apparently through the Play app. But we asked them for more examples of that. How is this going to work, and how extensive is it going to be? And they were kind of quiet about it, which makes me think that they're still trying to figure out how it's all going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But
There's
I
been
think
a rumor
that's the
that
idea.
they're not going to be able to open on time. Have you heard that at all?
Well, they haven't set an opening date, which is a little telling in that, but I also see their side of it, because the last thing they want to do is set an opening date. People take off
Right.
time from work, buy plane tickets,
Right.
and reserve
Yep.
hotels, and then
Bingo.
So I don't blame them for not announcing it yet. There is a lot of work still to be done, but I think it's basically there. And we asked them several times in several different ways whether they thought they were on schedule and where they wanted to be, and I didn't get any indication that they're behind or dramatically behind schedule. I think they're basically where they want and need to be, but they're being cautious.
Yeah. I mean, we've all waited our whole lives, so what's more?
Right.
A couple more months at this point.
Right.
It's like,
Exactly.
Did you get any indication that, well, first of all, I got to say, like, the whole thing about when you're in the lines and there's stuff to do, that's just right there, like, keep the kids from crying. That's what that's for. It's
Yeah.
like, keep the kids,
Exactly.
keep Lacey from crying. I hate waiting in lines.
Yeah, me too. Who am I kidding? But did you
too.
get any indication that they're leaving some room to add stuff later?
Yeah, in fact, it wouldn't be anything huge. Like they've pretty much maxed out what they can do in terms of large attractions and things like that. But as we walked the streets, we had questions about what is in that door over there, and they said, well, that's probably going to be for something in the future, down the road somewhere.
Oh, okay.
So there is stuff, it sounds like, that they're going to put in later or change, but yeah, they're not really telling us anything specific. I did got to tell you, there's one really cool. It's another restaurant that basically does these spicy sausage wrap things. The restaurant itself is called Toh Roasters, and it's the best like visual, because what they've done is they've taken a giant pod racing engine and they've hung it from the ceiling, and so the idea is that it's firing down and cooking all the meat right in front of you.
Oh my god!
Yeah, which spoiler alert, isn't actually cooking the meat, but it looks like it is. And it's actually being done in a proper
So
kitchen, but it looks really cool. So
I'm curious to see if that question would be different for the Florida one, only because they have way more space than the California one, obviously.
Oh,
expansion.
that's a good
More room.
question. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, other than they said that 99% of the footprint between Anaheim and Orlando is exactly the same. The only thing that's different.
That's awesome.
The only thing that's different.
That's
they said.
interesting.
Yeah, the only thing apparently that's different are the entrances in and out, where they're positioned and how they work. But everything else.
I thought that when we first got started, the way you were describing the layout and stuff, and I was like, "There's no way it could be the same." So like, theoretically, like, I know it doesn't matter, but like, what's the canon version? Like, what does this world really look like? Is it the Disneyland version? Is it the Disney World version? Because they could be laid out differently. They like, this restaurant exists in both, but like, it over here it's near that place, and over here it's near this place.
Yeah.
But saying it's like almost identical, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
pretty identical. And then I was trying to think. The other cool thing that kind of got hinted at is that things that you see at Black Spire sounds like they will show up in other places, whether it's, I mean, besides the stuff we already know about, but in other movies or TV shows. Because there was something that Pablo said. He said that, sometimes the art department would go in and try and solve something for Batu, but that whatever solution they came up with was so good and so perfect that it totally applies and can be used in a film or a TV show. And so they're sort of hinting that we may see things down the road that you originally saw in the park. And Scott Trowbridge actually was a lot more direct, although he didn't give specifics. He said, he goes, have we planted seeds for the future? Unquestionably, yes. So it sounds like,
Ooh,
sounds like there'll be more coming. down the road.
That's like that TIE fighter thing I was talking about
Yeah,
earlier. Like
right.
going and experiencing something and then getting the payoff to see it like show up in Star Wars Resistance or, you know, in a future like the Rian Johnson trilogy movie or something. You know, who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
But just, that'd be so incredible. It'd be like, I know that. I feel like I have ownership of that because I've seen it. I took a picture with it or something.
I think that's important.
And there it is.
To find out. That's a good point, because if this is quote unquote the end of the Skywalker saga until Bob Iger's like, we need more billions of dollars, so let's do episode 10. Then you would think if this is the future of the park, blah, blah, they would have to some way incorporate the new movie series, which would be whatever Benioff and Weiss do or whatever Rian Johnson does. So I wonder if that's something they need to sprinkle in or involve this planet in those movies in some way. Did you get any indication that movie-based it's going to be tied in?
I think they'll have to, only because they made a big point of saying that we have drawn from across all Star Wars storytelling to create this land, whether it's the prequels, you know, books, comics, video games, the original trilogy, like it's all in there. And I think it's meant to be a place where you can do that. So maybe some of that expansion stuff that is empty at the moment is are places where they could pull that off. But I would think
no shrines to the holiday special or anything, right?
Sadly, no.
No plaques of B. Arthur anywhere.
No.
Okay.
Maybe it's codified in some writing on the wall somewhere. I don't know.
Is there any yaddles lying around?
No yaddles. No yaddle. Yaddle free is a yaddle free zone.
Any reference to Yoda, actually, or anything like that?
I even broader, the Force. Is it a very like Force?
You know, they
driven.
They talked a lot about the Force in relation to the merchandise. So there's an area where you can go and build your own custom lightsaber, and it's one of these things where they only allow 14 people in at a time to do it. And there's a whole apparently, you know, they say magical things happen in this shop when you're building your lightsaber.
Oh, like the wand stuff for Harry Potter, maybe?
That's exactly what somebody said. I haven't done that, but that's when I described it, that's exactly what somebody said, that it's got a similar sort of thing to it. Like you go in and you have to pick your kyber crystal, and there's like 4 different kyber crystals. Yeah. So you pick your kyber crystal, put it
picks you.
It picks you, Clayton. Exactly. I misspoke. I misspoke. But these lightsabers, these custom ones, they had some hilts there for us to play with. They are not like the ones that you do where, you know, you take the plastic pieces and throw them together, and it's you know, basically
blade builders,
a toy, not blade builders.
Yeah.
These are heavy metal, solid lightsaber hilts that you can. I mean, they're awesome. They're very heavy.
That's so cool.
And you know that whole thing about, you know, it was the first time like picking it up. You used to hear George Lucas would tell people not to use a lightsaber with one hand because it was such a heavy, substantial thing. You were supposed to lightsaber fight with 2 hands. And now I get why, because these things are heavy and solid just like that. And
wow.
I get it now. So.
Now, do you get to buy them and
Owen
keep
Wilson
them?
over here.
Yeah, you can buy them and keep them.
Wow.
And don't ask me how much they cost because they haven't mentioned any prices. That was like, you know, they would show us something.
$500.
Yeah, they would show us, you know, something, and we'd be, how much is that? We haven't set that yet, so they're still working that out.
You can apply for a line of credit in the store here, and
they're like, "How bad do you want it, Clayton?"
Right, exactly.
We're trying to get an idea for how bad do you want it.
Did it come with a blade attachment or anything like that, or is it just the hilt?
Comes with a blade. Yeah, comes with a blade, a detachable blade, so you can take it in and out, and.
Okay, can you compare to like Force Effects? Is it kind of... Are you familiar with that brand? Like how the blade goes on, or is it like telescoping like the toy?
It doesn't tell us. It just turns on and off, and I can't remember the room we were in that they were demoing them. I don't know if it had that sort of in and out effect or not. I can't remember. Sorry.
But it's going to be awesome.
Either way, this sounds the closest thing, you know, as 2019 can get to getting a real lightsaber. So
Yeah, no, the hilts at least are really awesome, and you can build. There's another shop where you can build a droid, so it's kind of like a. They were pretty, they're probably maybe 14, 16 inches high, possibly, and you go in and kind of pick your pieces, and then you put it together, and then they activate it, and there's BB models, so rolling around just like it's like the Sphero version.
Right.
They tell me they're not made by Sphero, but they're bigger than that. They're probably 2 or 3 times bigger than those Sphero models. Still not full size, but you can kind of customize them and do all these things. And then you're supposed to be able to take them out into the park, and if you activate the chip, they'll know like certain areas that they're at. If you go by the TIE fighter, it starts to freak out, or a stormtrooper walks by or whatever.
Oh my God.
Supposed to be able to interact with the environment somehow. So we'll see if that works.
So I'm broke already.
I'm broke.
No,
it's just like, here, take all my money. Yeah.
I guess
they're like, Clayton, this is an interview. You're like, so you need how much?
Right.
Speaking of money,
there's like direct deposit. Like when you get there, it just goes from your place of employment straight to Disney.
Put half of this on this card.
Exactly.
So speaking of money, did you get to go into the hotel? Is that done? Or do you know any information about the hotel that we don't know yet?
No, there's no hotel at Disneyland, so I didn't get to go.
Okay, right.
I didn't get to go in there. That does look amazing. Every picture I've seen of it is just incredible. Yeah. And is it true it only has like 100 rooms? Is that right?
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah.
So and you probably have to book it like years in advance.
Yeah, for $3,500 a night. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Man, I think I'd rather own an R2D2, but
Right.
Oh, wow. All right. So, I don't want to keep you too long, but is there anything else that you think people may not know already that you probably only found out when you were there, that sort of thing? A vibe of the tactileness of the park, anything like that?
Yeah, it really is just a gorgeously laid out thing. We were talking about sight lines and vistas and all of that. They have planned for everything. There's spots above the Millennium Falcon where you can see everything. That they knew that people wanted to get up close to the Millennium Falcon, so the way they designed the ride, the line queue for Smuggler's Run, takes you right underneath the back of it, and then you get to go right above it on the back, so you can really see in detail how it's all laid out. It's just it all feels, and again, without all of the dressing in there, without the sounds, without the people, the costumes, all of that, even in its current state, it's pretty stunning. It's pretty it's very Star Wars. Like I got geeked out by goofy things like the laser cut tunnels. Like that look of the laser cut tunnel from Hoth. They replicate that in the Resistance base, which, if you think of the base from Force Awakens, that's essentially what that whole area underground kind of looks like, with the vines and there's a waterfall and all that kind of stuff, and ready rooms where there's weapons, all sorts of rebel blasters in these cages that you can look at and check out. So they have pulled off all of the details that you would expect and would miss if they weren't there. They've gotten them all right.
Wow. I guess my last question would be buffers between Batuu and say like, oh, whoops, now I'm in Tomorrowland or something. Is there only one way in and one way out? And is there like a buffer area,
Right?
Yeah, there's 3. So there's one that it brings you in from basically the Fantasyland area.
Okay.
And another one that to me looks like it was basically right behind Big Thunder Mountain. So
it's Frontier. Yeah, right to the left of it.
Yeah, and then another one that connects you to Critter Country. So for the first time, Critter Country is no longer a dead end. So there's an entrance there. So theoretically, people could flow through this place from Fantasyland all the way to Critter Country. And again, it's all sort of designed to cut you off as you walk in it's sort of a big entrance. It kind of gets smaller, compresses you down, and then opens you back up. And they had a word for decompression area, I think is what they called it. So you don't just walk into this big land. You kind of walk into kind of a medium-sized space, and there's cool stuff. I mean, you immediately recognize the details. There's moisture evaporators in the corners,
man.
and speeders parked over there in the garage. There'll be a row of droids kind of greeting you as you walk in this one entrance. So that you kind of start there and then slowly make your way to the bigger and bigger vistas and eventually up the hill to the Falcon. So wow, it kind of happens in stages, but yeah. So it looks like with the 3 entrances, it'll have pretty good crowd flow, hopefully.
No one's ever going to leave there. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So then let me ask you, because, well, first I want to say thanks again for reaching out and coming and talking with us and our audience about it.
Anytime. For like 5 days straight, I've been writing till like 2:00 in the morning. I think I was up to about almost 5,000 words between the 5 or 6 articles we did. So then let us know where we can find those 5,000 words. Yeah, so on abcnews.com, I will. I've tweeted them out now that the embargo has lifted, so you can check my Twitter feed. I'll have all of them in there. We wrote kind of a general news article. I wrote probably my favorite piece is the reporter's notebook, where it was kind of my first person walking around and just talking about what we saw. Wrote one separately about the foods. Wrote one separately about the toys and merchandise setup, and then the one I just finished last was the my favorite reveals and Easter eggs. So,
and sobbing at looking at the Falcon or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I talk about it. I talk about it.
Oh, cool. All right, cool. And then also people can find you on Twitter. What's your handle?
Yeah, at Clayton _Sandell. Clayton _Sandell. And if anybody has any other questions that they didn't answer, I mean, it was a long 3 days and there was a lot of detail that I didn't stick in some of these articles. So I tried to get most of it in there. But if anybody has any questions, ask me anything.
So kind. Great. You're so generous. Even like dating back to... You just opened
the floodgate.
Yeah, you're the best.
Last summer, giving us that awesome information from Todd Fisher about Carrie and Last Jedi. We appreciate that. So, I mean, thank you so much for being so generous. Our listeners, and we appreciate it very much. And we're going to see you at Celebration, right?
Yeah, I will be there. I plan with bells on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Can't wait.
We'll talk some Star Wars in person.
No Kylo gear that time though, right?
No Kylo gear.
Maybe.
No, not yet.
It's something else this time, I bet.
Yeah. They do apparently have something new that they're not talking about. So who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, it's the revised Darth Vader that gets brought back to life in Episode 9. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
As he drinks his Snapple.
I would absolutely do that.
So thank you so much, and we'll be in touch soon. And I don't even know what else to say. So pumped. Thanks so much, Clayton.
Yeah, I know. Summer can't get here fast enough, right?
Yes, right.
Oh
right.
my goodness, yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Cool.
Bye.
Well, that was absolutely awesome. I don't even know where to start, so I'm not going to. We're just going to kind of get out of here. But first, just a reminder, if you guys do have questions for Clayton, don't try to pummel him too much, but you can find him on Twitter at Clayton _Sandell. You guys can find us everywhere. Make sure you are subscribed to our podcast for awesome stuff like this on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. We do have a Patreon page where we do exclusive stuff. We're probably going to talk more about this stuff exclusive to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. You can join up for only $2 a month, and there's other rewards and tiers that you can find there as well. Make sure you guys do also head to StarWarsNewsNet.com. That's where you're going to find all of our latest news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. You guys can find me, John Hoey, on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and writing and editing over at Star Wars News Net. James, how about you, buddy?
Twitter and Instagram is where you can get a hold of me. Follow everything that I talk about on Twitter. That's at Meyer Trunks. Just go there and say hello. Lacey, what about you?
Just hit my hand on the table. People can find me on...
At hit my hand on the table?
Hit my hand on the table.
No. People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran. You can also find me on Star Wars Newsnet, the weekly news show where I go down through the top stories in the galaxy, including this one, guys. This was unreal.
What? Yes.
Like, unreal. I said it at the beginning of the episode, but I'll say it again. Like, my BPM right now is like out of control. I think I'm gonna have a heart attack.
My Apple Watch just blew up. Like,
yeah. So for those of you who are expecting us to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi character tonight, obviously that is going to be next Thursday. So we're sorry to mix you up on that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Again, thank you so much to Clayton Sandell. He is the man. He has a key to the Resistance base anytime he wants to come on, just like he did today. So thank you so much. He's kind of a
commander. He's like a commander in the Resistance.
He's an elite.
No, he's like a general,
officer.
just like all our other generals.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, enjoy that episode. Watch it again. Ask questions. Comment. Talk amongst yourselves. I mean, we're all so excited about Galaxy's Edge, so we hope to eventually see you guys there. But until then, we'll see you guys on Monday morning with another episode right here on the Resistance broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.
Thank you, generals.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, General.